So in this one, I just decided to tell you everything, like actually tell it to you, because I really don't feel like typing. Because haven't you seen how much I posted today? I don't feel like doing it anymore. So I'm just going to tell you. So we're going to talk about the punctuation guidelines. First, we're going to talk about the period, which is the dot at the end of a sentence. I don't know how else to put that. So you use it at the end of a statement. For example, the door is open, and then you would put your period. Another thing is that use at the end of a direct quotation if the quotation is a statement or a command. An example is, Deanna said it is too cold to go outside. Your parentheses would be right here. I mean, not your parentheses. Your quotation marks would be right there, and your period would go right before them at the bottom. You also use them after an abbreviation. For example, December is like DEC, and then you should put a period at the end of that. And you also use after an initial. For example, E.B. White, it would go after the E and after the B. So now we're going to talk about commas, which is the period, the little tail at the end. That's the way I know how to put it. Okay, so use before the words or, and, or but when they join two simple sentences to form a compound sentence. For example, it was a beautiful day, comma, and, because that's the word I told you to use, we decided to go for a bike ride. Use to separate words into a series. For example, Matt, comma, Ryan, comma, and Kent went swimming. You also use between the day and the year. For example, October 2nd, comma, 2013. Also use a period in that too. You would put OCT, period, 2, comma, 2013. You also use between a city and state or province. An example is Dallas, comma, TX would probably be what you would put. Used to set off the words yes, no, and well at the beginning of a sentence. Example like, yes, comma, I will be happy to help. You also use to set off the name of someone address. For example, like Sam, comma, please come here. You also use to separate a speaker's words from the rest of the sentence in a direct quotation. For example, Joe said, comma, I'm glad you were able to make it. So now we're going to talk about the apostrophe, which is like a comma in the air. So you use to replace a letter or letters that have been left out in a contraction. For example, did plus not is didn't, and it would be DID apostrophe T. You used to show possession in singular nouns. For example, Stacy's, but right before the S, the last S, you would put an apostrophe. Stacy's history book. You also use to show possession in plural nouns that do not end in S. For example, the children, apostrophe S, the children's voices. Now we're going to talk about quotation marks, which I have talked about in commas, and periods, which are just like two apostrophes in the air. There's one at the beginning of the sentence and one at the end. So you use around titles of short stories and poems, songs, magazine articles, and essays. For example, the quotation marks, Backwards Bill, quotation marks, by Shel Silverstein, I think that's how you say it. You also use to show the exact words of a speaker. For example, Lee said, apostrophe, quotation marks, I'd like a new bike, and then more quotation marks. Italics or underline. There's only one way to really use those, It's used for the titles of books, magazines, and plays. For example, Joe describes to Ranger Rick would be in italics, or Ranger Rick would be underlined, and I will show you an example of that. The punctuation that I just showed you, they were red in that picture that you just saw, so you can go back to that and look at it.